Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I am Butch Theory, and as you guys know, this has been kind of a peculiar week for us here on the Gulf Coast. Our hearts go out to the guys over in Louisiana and Texas. I hate that they are getting the storm. It's not going to be good for anybody over there. Lucky for us, we didn't have too much damage over here. I hope everybody is staying well. This week, since there hasn't been a whole lot of fishing going on due to the conditions, we're going to have some of our regulars on the show this week, and we're going to talk about what was going on pre-hurricane and tropical storms, as well as what to look for post-storm. What do these guides and contributors to our show battle with after going back to work after an events like this? So let's get started, man. We're going to head on down and talk to Dusty Hayes and Mathew Isbell, the Bama Beach Bum, so we can get the storm report post and pre from those guys. Let's head on down. How we doing today, guys?
Good.
Doing good.
Luckily, I'm heavy enough where the wind's not going to blow me anywhere.
Can't say the same for the Beach Bum. Beach Bum might
I'm
fall
a little bit lighter on the feet, but yeah, no, we're thinking about our Texas and Louisiana friends. I know that over there they're getting it pretty bad. And that's always the thing about hurricanes. You're always praying that it goes somewhere else, but what sucks is obviously somebody's got to deal with it. So that we hate that for them, and hopefully they'll stay strong. We're praying for them, but yeah, we're thankful. At least we're missing this one, but any given time, our time will come.
Oh yeah, it can be our time.
The season's
anytime.
not over yet either.
No, that's right.
That's right.
Well, all right. I kind of introduced this as a pre and post storm show. Nobody's really been fishing that much, as you guys know. So, Dusty, just kind of tell us a little bit about what was going on before the storm.
Well, before the storm, the fishing was pretty good. Me and Matt actually went a couple of days last week, and we caught some cool stuff. We caught some pompano and some other species. I don't know if he wants to reveal them yet. I know there's redfish out there for sure, especially further west down Fort Morgan. And as the fall gets on into the next 2 months, 3 months is some of the best whiting fishing we have. And so it's still on and off as far as that goes, but it's about that time where it should be getting good, and this little storm might be the kickoff for it. Yeah,
well, let's talk a little bit about that. Fishing was pretty much right on key for seasons, correct? Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, every trip you could kind of expect to see like a pomp or two, which is pretty stereotypical for late summer, pre-fall. We can always catch pompano, but it's never like hot and heavy this time of year. So, I mean, you could catch your whiting, and a lot of the times, like most days, the whiting were kind of small. But what Dusty said, I mean, like we're just starting to kind of see those redfish moving in the surf, which is like what you can expect. And really, like the month of September, I always tell people, like, if you want to catch redfish in the surf, like on any given beach, like September is generally our best month because, like, when you think about redfish and you think red October and the fall red fishing like that, that's obviously what you think of for inshore fishing as these redfish kind of move into the bays and the river systems. But before that, the month of September generally is when we see a lot of them along the beaches, kind of making their way into those passes and inlets as they make their way into the bays and stuff. So what Dusty said, I think with the storm coming and like when the water's dirty and like churned up and not that pompano clear color, like in my mind, I'm always thinking redfish and black drum. After this storm, we're going to have after the waves settle down, after a couple of days after the storm, water's probably still going to be pretty dirty. We're going to have a lot of fresh water that's going to be moving in from the bays and everything. And a lot of times that pushes in a lot of these redfish, black drum, and the trout that, are in the bays and river systems, kind of pushes them a little further south into the Gulf, and we get opportunities at them on the beach. So could provide some really good fishing after we kind of get past this, this crapshoot that we're in right now.
You know what else is going to be on fire after this little week of wonderful weather?
What's that?
Catfish bite is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pumped, man. I'm going to hit up those hard heads.
Have a hard head rodeo?
That's right.
No, it's going to be unreal.
I bet.
You're right about that.
You're talking record-breaking days. I agree with Matt for sure, though. It's getting that time of year where, as it gets more into fall, that those ladyfish and all that stuff they know fall's coming and the numbers decrease of the amount of ladyfish you catch. And when you can get that time of year where you're not catching 500 ladyfish a morning, the other fish are there. You just have to get through those ladyfish, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be cold. It just one of those things that happens. They know it's fall, that bait starts moving south, and they start moving south with them. And there's still going to be ladyfish here for a few more months, but it seems like those every morning just ladyfish blitz start to kind of slow down as you get into September and October. And with that happening, you have more opportunities at different fish, especially a redfish or something like that. So, and then the mullet are thick, and they start just getting thicker and thicker and thicker on the beach. And as it gets into, like I said, the next couple months, those mullet are out there, those redfish are with them. So, and the sharks.
Tearing them up. Yeah, I've been seeing a bunch of sharks. And like I said, a lot of big redfish starting to show up too. Well, let me ask you this.
They've been doing good down Fort Morgan.
Been seeing that too. Let me ask you this, Bama Beach Bum, and Dusty, you can certainly chime in. The next couple of days, things are going to be churned up and cut up, and bars are going to be cut and everything else. So how are you going to approach your next couple of trips?
The next couple of days I've kind of written off. For surf fishing, it's just real tough. And like the videos, I haven't been to the beach personally, but I've been watching the videos, and it looks pretty nasty out there. And it's probably going to be the same way tomorrow with the wind and this storm making landfall overnight. So it'll be a few days before the surf kind of settles down to where it's fishable. You might can get a bait out now if you're really desperate, but I would prefer, since I'm here, I just rather wait until things kind of settle down. But what you mentioned, is actually a really cool aspect of surf fishing. When we do get these storms that enter the Gulf, and even, it's just crazy. Like this storm is literally hundreds of miles away, like the bad part of it. But, anytime a storm enters the Gulf, like we get, the beaches are going to be just churned up. It's crazy how powerful these storms are when you really think about it, how big a space they occupy. It's just incredible. So it's going to turn up our surf. And the cool part about surf fishing is you kind of get used to your structures, your bars, your cuts, your holes on every beach. And all of that's going to be completely different. Like these are the kind of systems that change it up, not just your any given afternoon storm that you get in the summertime. Like that stuff doesn't really change much. You got to really have one of these strong systems, and it's going to rearrange the beach structures, for sure. So it'll be neat getting back out there and re-scouting everything, finding new cuts, new holes, new bars, new rips. Like that's a fun part of it for me. I just like the ever changing, geography part of it, once you get out there on the beach. So that'll be part of what I do, once we get back to it and start fishing again, trying to figure out, what areas I like and what spots I like and what works and what doesn't, for those any given areas. But it'll probably be, I'd say, it's hard to say, because sometimes like we've had a couple of storms over the last few years that like I thought we'd be out of the game for 4 or 5 days after the storm, and usually a day or two after you're kind of back to normal. But it's hard to say. Sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 days before that water clears up. Sometimes it may take a day or two, and it's
Sure.
it's like it never happened. So it's hard to say, but it'll, I would say probably, what's today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, at least by this weekend. You could probably get some fishable water. It may still be pretty dirty, and like Dusty said, you're going to be dealing with a lot of catfish if you're using set rigs. But I'd say it's probably going to be fishable by this weekend for sure.
Looking at the forecast, it was saying it's still going to be a little bumpy even into next week until that system kind of turns and we get that north wind off of it. There's a steady wind south for the next 4 or 5 days, and that might change. I haven't looked at it since early this morning. I think the difference on this storm as opposed to, talking about the beach structure changing, like you might get a day of wind and it might kick the surf up, but this has been, we're looking at what, since Saturday or Sunday we've had these conditions.
Yeah.
And so there's a longer duration, and we haven't had a storm like this in the Gulf in quite a while, aside from Michael, that went to the east of us. When we're on the west side of that storm, we had the north wind, so we didn't really have any bad impacts over here. But us being on the east side this time, we're having that offshore wind blow in, and our onshore wind, creating a lot rougher surf and it's putting the water level really high up. So, that's going to definitely put some changes on the beach for sure.
Yeah, it just kind of seems like it's kind of like a reset. Like you say, it wipes out old spots that you were smashing them at, but then you have the opportunity to come in and find a bunch of brand new spots, kind of like a hard reset kind of, right?
Yeah, one cool thing too, as the beach structure goes, it changes, but it's the same. And what I mean by that is like you can go to, say, a beach in Orange Beach that it might be completely different than what it was, say, last Tuesday, but, you still have your second sandbar is going to be at, say, 100 yards, just for example, and there might be some different stuff up close, but it's not necessarily a hard sandbar. and you go down west towards Fort Morgan, you know, and you have a little bar at 10 or 15 yards or 20 yards that you can throw over. And, you know, now the structure of that may change as far as the rips and the washouts and stuff like that. But year after year, the same sandbar patterns occur at each beach. You know, like I said, it may not be exactly the same, but in the big picture, it looks generally the same. And it's kind of hard to explain. But, you know, I know Matt knows what I'm talking about as far as, like, you know, you look at the sandbars in Orange Beach, they may not be exactly what they were last spring or last fall, but they're generally in the same area. You know, we know
same patterns.
You know, okay, we got a we got a hard wind. We know we can go to this beach and kind of get a closer sandbar that'll break that wind and break those waves. Versus if we go, say, you know, west, like right around in Gulf Shores and the city beaches, you know, that sandbar is really far out and there's no sandbar up close. So those waves will break on that back sandbar, but they'll rebuild by the time they get to you over that sandbar. And it's almost impossible to fish on a rough day. So that is the cool part of it is yeah, it changes, but there's still enough pattern there all the time to where, you know, you kind of have a starting point.
Consistency, at least at a general level. That makes a lot of sense. I hadn't really thought about it like that before.
You know, you saying it's weird that it does stay consistent in that sense. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, like your holes and rips and everything do change 100%, you know, when you get these kind of systems, but like the main structure, you know, like your main bar, like pretty much stays pretty consistent as far as distance from the beach and all that, which is strange. You know, you would kind of assume like that would move around a little bit more, or, you know, especially with these storm systems. But no, I mean, year after year, regardless of what kind of storm systems we get, that skeletal structure of our bar systems along the Gulf Coast, they stay the same. You know,
always
but yeah, as far as
always ends up being kind of the same outline, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the nooks and crannies, the details, absolutely, you know, those change up. So it's kind of weird when you think about it that way.
That's awesome, guys. I really appreciate that, and I think our listeners will like that. And this week's Storm Onshore Report was brought to us by Fishbites. Are you guys tired of scrambling for bait whenever you decide to go fishing? Have an artificial bait that's better than live bait, ready to go at a moment's notice with Fishbites. It's easy to pack and travel with and shelf stable, and not to mention tough. With Fishbites, the bait stays on the hook and the fish stay on the bait. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits and tackle at fishbites.com. Appreciate you guys being on. You have anything to add? How the book's looking? You guys got any bookings coming up? How's September look?
I know Matt's full because I'm getting some calls saying, "Oh, yeah, we tried to go with him, and now we're going with you." So,
well, good. Hopefully, you guys will get back at it
for sure, and I definitely do myself. So
good. Well, hopefully the storms will stay away. And if folks want to book a trip with you, Dusty, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can reach me at 678-897-0167. My Facebook page is Sure Thing Fishing, or you can just call Matt, and then, you know, Matt will just send you to me.
How about you, Mathew? What's the best way to get in touch with you for a trip, buddy?
Yeah, well, my website's best way. It's staybummy.com, STAYBUMMY.
Got anybody have anything to add to this awesome pre and post storm report?
I'd say just
I'm just ready to get back to yeah, that's right. I'm trying to get back to fishing, man. You know, these weeks, like when we get it like this, I get almost depressed in a way. Like I'm sitting at home and it's nice to get the break because you're fishing so much. But like after a day of not really fishing, I start getting like, I'm like, man, what the crap, you know? It gets frustrating. I mean, obviously you can go try something, but you're just kind of beating your head against the wall with these types of conditions. But
for sure.
But yeah, no, man, I'm ready to get back after it. I mean, and what stinks is this time of year there really is a lot of opportunity because water's so warm. We got a lot of species from jacks and redfish and whiting, pompano and trout, bluefish. I mean, there's really like, you know, any given day you have a really good opportunity and a lot of stuff. Kind of makes you antsy to get back out there. But yeah, I'm just ready for the storm to get out of here and get back to fishing.
Yeah.
It was crazy is, you know, it seems like it's coming to an end, but if you think about it, it really doesn't get cold until November. So we still got at least a month, if not two, of our summer left.
Yeah.
It's funny when you said that a minute ago. You said something about fall or early fall, and I was like, God, I can't even dream of fall right now. It seems so far away.
Yeah, we might get we usually get like one little cold spell for, you know, right around Halloween. And then it'll be back in the 80s.
That's a long time away at 100 degrees every day.
Oh, yeah. September's late August. September's about the worst. So,
yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys being on. I think our listeners will enjoy this, kind of give them something to decipher, you know, after the storm. I kind of feel the same way. If I was going, I wouldn't know what the heck to do. So hopefully it helped. And I appreciate you guys sharing your knowledge. And we'll talk to y'all soon.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
Thank you.
All right, guys. That was an awesome storm segment with Captain Dusty and the Bama Beach Bum down there. Let's head on down to Dauphin Island, Mobile Bay, Mississippi Sound. Let's see what Captain Patric Garmeson and Captain Bobby Abruscato are doing. How y'all doing today, guys?
Doing well. All good here.
Enjoying the days off, boat maintenance days, I'm sure.
I enjoy it.
Feels more like work.
After, yeah.
Feels much more like work than fishing, doesn't it?
Yeah. Real thing. Yeah, I'm ready to get back to doing the real thing after a couple days of doing this stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly what the Bama Beach Bum and Dusty said. Like, it's great to be, kick around for a couple of days, but like, it's all right, let's go catch something now. Let's go back to fishing. Well,
that's right.
The way I'm kind of titling this is kind of a pre-storm report as much as we can. I know it's a little bit tricky because everybody hadn't been fishing a whole lot, but it is what it is. We'll do kind of a pre-storm report from both you guys and then kind of do a post-storm report, kind of see what it looks like for Captain Patric and Captain Bobby, going back to work after an event or two like we had just like this. So, Captain Patric, what did you see pre-storm that, was anything different, or was it kind of the normal pattern, or just kind of walk us through it?
So pre-storm, I ended up fishing out of the eastern shore, I think just about every day, and the bite was good. We were either catching really nice trout and only a few of them, or we would hit on a school where we just catch them till we got tired of catching them. So there's a ton of fish, and I think I reported that the last time I was on. And we were talking about how many fish were over there on the eastern shore. And I mean, we had one trip in particular where just the birds were just everywhere, shrimp jumping out of the water, and you make a cast, you could cast in the same spot over and over and over again and never knew what you were going to catch. You were going to catch a speckled trout, a white trout, a ladyfish, a gaff top, a hardhead, a jack cavite, a dang redfish, a bull red. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Just lively stuff everywhere.
I mean, and it was like a nice overcast morning that we did this in particular, and it was just every stinking cast. And then the very next day, woke up to an east wind, an incoming tide, which was a perfect recipe for a pretty nasty jubilee. Nasty for me because I'm looking to catch fish on a hook,
right?
And fish do not bite a hook very well, and when it's jubileeing. And then outside of that, getting up on the grass flats up around the causeway and picking a few pumpkins.
Yeah, I've been seeing that. God, those fish are so pretty. I know I say it over and over. That picture you sent me the other day was gorgeous, man. It's glowing.
Yep. They're getting ripe for sure.
Glad to see that.
The numbers seem to improving. But I tell you what, man, every flat you go to, it's different every single day, and it could change within the hour. You could have what feels like the exact, the conditions haven't really changed much. Water temperature still 88 degrees, and you come and maybe you go through a flat and see some fish, and you circle back, and there's nothing there. None of them are there. The bait right now is in high speed, high gear. We're seeing these mullet schools pushing across the flats, and I can't even keep up with them with the trolling motor. And you'll see redfish blow up in them, and you try to get up there to it to get into some of the action. And hell, the bait fish is gone. You can see them. They're 200 yards in front of you now. And I mean, I'm talking, that's anything from little finger mullet to like big, say 10, 12, 15 inch mullet. And so, I mean, everything is like wide open on the move.
Finger mullet to arm mullet.
Yeah,
finger mullet to arm mullet.
Yeah, arm mullet. I like that.
Well, what
that's kind of
down there, Captain Bobby? Seen any kind of the same thing down south, or where you been? What you been seeing pre-storm?
Well, I'll tell you something. I've seen the shrimp activity he was talking about was one of the things I was really on for a few weeks. A couple or 3 weeks ago, there were just swarms of shrimp moving through the sound, and that's kind of typical for this time of year. And and then with that were those schools like Patric was talking about, where when you find those schools, there's birds on, but birds give them away. The trout do a little bit when if you're near enough to them, but the birds really would give them away from a distance. So I saw a lot of shrimp activity, and when you get around, you guys have both done that. I mean, you get around that, like Patric was just talking about, the action is just insane because the key to this whole bay system is shrimp. And everything's feeding on them. Like he was just talking about I mean, that's exactly what goes on. There's carnage on that shrimp. You throw in there and they're hitting the cork. Sometimes you get those clean schools where it's just trout or just trout and white trout, but more often than not, it's a variety of species. So I've seen a lot of that. The other thing that's been really great, probably since I've been on last couple of 3 weeks, is, we've had these storms late in the evening and at night. And I think I know what happens is it cools that water. It oxygenates it overnight to where in the morning there's a lot of shallow water surface activity. And so we had runs on trips where, really getting it done in shallow water very early in the day and staying on the fish in the morning. I think it was like there was a stretch of trips there where I never pulled the anchor out, never even had to use the anchor. I was guiding in other people's boats and didn't have the spotlight trolling motor, so we were using anchors, but I was using either like a stick-it pin, or some of them had power poles on them, to where we had a stretch for a few weeks there where I don't think I ever had to put the anchor out, so that was a lot of fun. And I think that had a lot to do with the storm activity that we're getting at night. And we had a stretch of some north and northeast winds, which is kind of rare for late summer. Usually we're dealing with west and southwest, but we had this stretch of east and north, and that's magic down on the lower end. When you get that wind direction. I was listening to Patric talking about that Jubilee, and I'll tell you something, man. I've been up the bay, even on the western side of the bay, where they have a Jubilee on that side. And dude, if you don't know about it, you talk about scratching your head and having a frustrating day if you don't know there was a Jubilee. Yeah. I'm glad to know that he has a better feel when those things occur, because my dumb butt's been up there beating the water to a white froth, catching catfish and jab tops all day long, and can't figure out what's going on. Somebody goes, "Man, you hear about the Jubilee on the Eastern Shore?" I'm like, "Uh-oh." Now I know I didn't catch anything, So, but anyway, just to sum it all up, man, it's we've had this has been one of the better mid to late summers that I've had in a number of years. This is typically not my favorite time of the year to fish. I love it all, but this is my least favorite. Because it's live bait fishing, there's a big soup of fish that you're catching, and oftentimes it's not the wanted species, or at least it's dirty enough to where you're having to go through ladyfish and catfish to get your trout. But, this has been a better late summer than I've had in a number of years, and I think we've gotten lucky with the weather. I think we have a good solid population of trout. Again, still a lot of small trout around, but to me, that's a good thing,
I just put my finger up to Patric to ask a question. That's literally what I was going to say. The past couple of weeks, Richard and Patric have both been bragging about the bumper crop of dinks. So you're seeing the same thing. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, they're freaking everywhere. Everywhere
That's awesome.
You go, it is. It is. And I always tell people I don't mind those small trout eating my voodoo shrimp. I ain't as crazy about them when they're eating my 35-cent live shrimp.
Right.
But it's good to see there's that big a number of fish there, because trout are so prolific spawners, where they're sexually mature at a very young, 6 months old or so. They're already starting to make babies. So when you start doing the math on that is not only do we have huge number of fish, but that huge number of fish is making more fish, so it starts to get exponential when you look at the numbers that they can reproduce. And so I think we got a lot to look forward to. But yeah, there is a lot of small fish. And again, it's not just one area. Some areas are kind of known for having big populations of small fish. These things are freaking everywhere, man.
I think that's got to be a good thing. I think that's got to be a combination
of. It's absolutely a good thing. Yeah.
Combination of good conservation and just sheer numbers.
Yep. I think you're exactly right. And when you, not just with saltwater species, but when you listen to people talking about the health of a fishery, one of the things that excites fisheries management people is when they see big numbers of small fish, Sure. Mm-hmm. And the obvious thing is that that's your future,
All right. Well, let's go post-storm now, Captain Patric. What are you looking for, and what are you not looking for? I feel like I would be just kind of wandering around nowhere. You found fish before the storm. I know we didn't get hit super duper hard with this one. I would think it'd be a little bit different with a direct impact, but it's still going to shake things up. What are you looking for whenever you go back on the water, or not looking for?
Well, I tell you what, my trip starts. It's very important to start on the internet for me. I like to really look at my tide levels and my water levels, because sometimes like I've had to go out and take charters out the very next day after a storm comes through, and it could be a tropical storm or hurricane or whatever. And if the water levels are way high than normal, first I'm going to have to figure out where I'm going to be able to launch my boat. But
True. That's true.
All right, so if I know I can launch my boat, just say hypothetically on the causeway, but I've got areas that I know are just going to be super duper high and just way underwater, like some of these flats that may typically be 2 feet deep are now 4 feet deep. I'm going to probably look at areas that I maybe can't typically go into because the water levels usually aren't high enough for my boat to get into. So areas that may typically be a foot deep might be 3 feet deep, and those are going to be set up pretty well for me. I'm going to have it's going to be a complete trial by fire kind of thing because you're going to have to look. You're going to have to try to find where your bait's been pushed to. You're going to have to, and hopefully wherever that bait's been pushed to is where some of your fish are going to be as well. But that's the main thing I'm going to look for are going to be trying to find areas that are going to be fishable based on what my conditions are, because that's what I've found a lot is where I'll have like really, really high water after these storms. So then, just trying to eliminate the areas that are going to be, typically 3 feet, they're now 5 feet. I don't really like that. I would rather go for something that typically a foot deep and now it's 3 feet deep. And if that's not working out, then I may actually go from scouting shallow and then look deep where areas that would be less affected by high winds, large volume of water changes and stuff like that. So it's definitely leave with the optimistic mindset of like, all right, I'm gonna find some fish here in a minute. I know that I may have to go through a lot of areas that, heck, we're holding fish 2 days before the storm and may not get a bite on them. A real cool story I had, it was right after one of these tropical storms came through, and I had the guys from Fishing Chaos, they were booked to go with me, and they were like, well, should we hold off? Should we go? I was like, no, man, let's go. We'll figure something out. So I'd been catching redfish in the Delta pretty good up until the storm, and, man, we hit 10, 12, 15 spots that I felt good about fishing for redfish. 0 bites, 0 anything happening.
Dang.
And we finally found a bite and got a single redfish to bite and proceeded to catch like 31 redfish in one spot.
That's crazy.
It was very surprising to me that they weren't more spread out, but that we ended up finding one giant school of fish. That was really cool.
That is cool.
That was, and then one other post storm was I don't remember which storm it was, but the forecast was that the winds were going to be blowing out of the south really, really hard after that storm. So we ended up scheduling the pickup at Dolphin Island and went down to like the West End Reefs. It was just really the only place that we could fish. And man, we just basically just took where we could fish, where we were slightly protected from the wind. And we caught some nice fish and caught a bunch of them on those reefs down there. And I feel like that's kind of where I was talking about with fishing the deeper stuff. And that's, that worked out for me. So
sure. What about you, Captain Bobby?
A couple of post-storm stories.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I would think they would open up a lot of different opportunities, like you're saying, where you can't get in there with a trolling motor. Now you can. Those fish might be pushed up in there, or might be, doing something a little different up in there. And
redfish are like little pigs, man. If you open the gate and let them go somewhere, they're going.
Yeah. What'd you say, Captain Bobby? What you do differently whenever you go post-storm? What's your strategy?
A lot of what Patrick was talking about is, that's the deal is, and that's the thing, not just post, I was thinking about what he was talking about, that not just post-storm, all the time, I don't think we put nearly enough weight into water levels. But that's the thing that you deal with when we get these storms on the west side of us, we get these high water levels. And not only are they high for the day of the storm, they've usually been high for a number of days prior to the storm. So a one-day change doesn't have a big effect on them. When you get 3 or 4 days of abnormally high water or low water, for that matter, we get these bull fronts during the winter, that repositions everything. And that's when we, not just guides, but recreational anglers, that's kind of you're scratching your head for a little while to kind of figure out where everything went, because those fish are going to follow that bait. And if redfish in particular, if that bait's up in the grass, they're going to be up in the grass feeding on it.
Yeah,
if it's pulled out, at the mouths of the creeks, that's where they're going to be feeding on it. And trout's the same way. The thing I find with trout when you start getting these high water events, it does tend to spread them out a little bit more so. On some of these flats and stuff, they get a little bit more spread out. That's a big thing I look at too. The main thing is looking at what's going on with the water levels. And then I don't like to fish like immediately behind the storm. I like to at least go one day, but sometimes, like Patric mentioned on his trip, you don't have a choice. It's like, we got to go, and you go and you just, you finally figure out where they're going to be, but it's going to be, typically they're going to get up as far, redfish in particular, are going to get up as far as they can get to feed on bait. And, there are species of fish, we've all seen it, where I've seen them where they're literally had their eyes out of the water, that shallow water feeding on stuff, and they're a pretty cool species, but that's what I do. And then, it doesn't seem to have the effect of water level changes when you start talking about a deep application like a gas rig or a reef or something like that, where they're not, that water column, even though it's changing by a couple feet, it's not going to affect where they're going to be. They're going to be in that lower third of the water column, so it doesn't have that big of an effect. One of the other effects that these storms, when we get, severe storms, particularly a series of them like we've had this week, we've had this happen over the years. And one year in particular, I remember was 2005 when we had Katrina and Rita, both pretty major storms to the west of us. This is the time of year where redfish are spawning, and there's a lot of eggs and there's a lot of larvae in the Gulf right now. What I've seen over the years when we've had these events is, and I'm going to call my shot, I hope I'm not wrong, but what happens is we get a bumper crop of redfish the following year for a number of years, because I think what happens is you get that wind direction and this huge water surge from the Gulf, and all of that larva that would normally end up possibly in marsh systems west of us, we get the benefit of. And so we get that population of fish that grows up in our area, and I've seen it happen enough to where I'm fairly confident in it. So I know in 2005 it happened. We had a huge population of redfish here for that year and for a few years after that, to the point where we had 2 major redfish championships here, tour redfish championships, and people were coming here going, man, you guys got a lot of redfish in Alabama. I didn't know about this place. I was going, it ain't always like this. I can tell you right now, because redfish was just a bite. We never targeted redfish on guide trips.
Yeah.
Redfish was, unless you went bull redfish on Dixie Bar,
sure.
And that was where you went and caught redfish. But you like to go into the marsh and do a true redfish and deal where you're beating banks or drifting grass. Man, that was unheard of, and even in the Delta, even the guys that were good in the Delta way back then, they weren't going up there. Those guys weren't, if they had to catch redfish, they come down at the lower end. Well, now it's not that. I feel the other way. I'd rather go north right now and catch redfish. And I think that's kind of a thing that's developed, over the last 15 or 20 years, where we're getting these systems to the west. So, that's another thing that I think that, matter of fact, I'm almost at a point that I know it happens. And so, watch and see. Let's watch and see if we have a conversation sometime next year. Let's
about
see if we can pull the tape of this up and say, pull
You're
it.
right.
Remember when
You're right,
this?
Captain Bobby.
You remember when I said this? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, you see it happen multiple times. You kind of build up a pattern that is happening. I've never really thought about that, but yeah, you're right. I don't ever really remember catching redfish inshore. We didn't do a ton of it growing up, but it really wasn't a thing. Like you say, we had to go to Louisiana marsh over there and we'd smash them over there, but it was a totally different fishery.
That's right. That's exactly right. And matter of fact, when we had those championships here, it was the first time that I'd really gone and targeted redfish, myself personally, getting ready for those once we qualified for them. And I was shocked. I was going, golly, we can actually catch redfish in Alabama, Well, I think I was just a beneficiary of what was going on with all of that, because since then, like Patric and several of us are doing now, we're going out and guiding for redfish now. And you got a good chance of catch a redfish now, so it's not an uncommon deal to go out and have a true redfish trip and you actually catch them,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you got anything to add, Captain Patric?
No, not necessarily on the fishing and post storm and all that. I was just gonna give you an update. I just left the. Oh
yeah, that's right. Hatchery. I forgot. Yeah, let's hear about that. What's going on over there with Max and them?
They learned a good bit from their flounder this past winter. They're building through some CCA funds. They're establishing more tanks for the flounder in the future. So the more brood stock that we can get, the better off we are. And we'll have that tournament coming up this weekend where they'd like for anglers to bring in as many live flounder as they can, because the more of them we get, the better they're going to get at this flounder restocking project. And then also checked on some of the trout. They got a couple of trout tanks down there, and he said that they had one really good successful spawn, and then had one tank that just kept spawning over and over and over again. They actually had to raise the temperature of the tank a little bit to shut them off because they were producing so much. So he said they were putting fertilized eggs out into their ponds and dumping them out into the intercoastal canal and everywhere. So he said it actually kind of got out of hand there for a little bit, which is a good thing, you know, knowing cool. that when trout are in a condition that is conducive for good spawning, they get
out.
They get pretty horny, I guess.
Pump them out. Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Those guys are doing some cool things over there. That's really cool to see those flounder and the speckled trout hatchery. And the tournament he's talking about is the Saltwater Fanatics tournament this weekend. You guys want to participate in that, go check them out on Facebook, Saltwater Fanatics. They're their Inshore Championship, I believe it's called. That's the
I believe so.
This weekend, the 28th, 29th. What is today?
Yeah,
29, 30. 29, August 29, 30. Yeah, so you guys check them out. Awesome, man. Well, I know you got
information on that's on Fishing Chaos, by the way. You get all the information you need off Fishing Chaos.
That too.
That's right.
Well,
that's right.
I appreciate you guys being on. If folks want to get a trip, Captain Bobby, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
ateamfishing.com is my website, and it's got all of our contact information on it.
Awesome. How about you, Captain Patric? What's the best way to get a trip with Captain Ugly?
Well, go to the website and click book now. So website is uglyfishing.com. Click the book now button. You'll see my calendar. And man, that thing's getting hot. Like I booked 3 trips today. A couple of them were people that called me and was like, "Hey man, looking at a date, couple of dates, blah blah blah." And we picked a date that worked for them. And then a couple of them knew exactly what they wanted. They went ahead and booked and sent me a text, said, "Hey, just give me a shout when you're ready to talk, and we'll come up with a plan." And so then, if you want to talk or text about fishing, 251-747-1554. And
awesome.
Get you on the schedule.
Awesome. I hope our listeners like this pre and post storms. Kind of is what it is. Got to talk fishing somehow, right? Got to do something. So I appreciate you guys being on as always, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks for being on this week.
You bet, man. Thanks for having us.
All right, guys. This week's pre and post storm inshore report was brought to you by Daycool Heating and Air. As the saying goes, if you don't like the weather in South Alabama, wait 10 minutes because it's going to change. But one of the things that is very predictable is the pricing at Daycool Heating and Air. They offer flat rate pricing and they do not charge for after-hour calls. Let's face it, your HVAC always seems to act up whenever you need it the most. Don't get stuck between a rock and a hot place. Daycool offers flat $45 service calls, $59 tune-ups, and they offer free estimates on equipment replacement. The pros at Daycool have been serving Mobile and Baldwin counties for over a decade. Contact them at 251-633-5121 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com or on the Daycool Heating and Air mobile app. They are license number AL07028. All right, guys, last but not least, we're going to head on down and get a pre- and post-storm report from Captain Dustin Bedgood, Fed Up Charters. This week's offshore storm report is brought to us by Test Calibration. Is your diesel engine showing signs of low power or excessive engine smoke? If so, you may be in need of repair to your diesel fuel injection system. Test Calibration has been selling and servicing diesel, turbochargers, and fuel injection systems since 1976 and are up to date with all the latest diesel technology. No matter if you're running a diesel in your boat, tractor, or truck, Test Calibration can help you. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratondieselandturbo.com. What'd you say, Captain Dustin? How you been doing down there, buddy? You ain't blowing away yet, are you?
No, not too bad. Just watching the wind and rain, trying to get some of my list done.
Yeah, that seems to be the general consensus, boat maintenance and honeydews.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, what were you doing pre-storm, man? You still chasing swordfish and tuna, or what you been up to?
Yeah, I was chasing some swordfish still. The bite was good. Seems like most of the people getting out there and in the right areas are having success. Still with the swordfish. I did a pretty good bit of inshore fishing the last few days just because it was a little too unpredictable offshore. Don't want to go out there and risk it. It's easier to go fishing inshore, and you can seek refuge a lot easier. So I did that a few days just to play it safe. We kind of got prepared for the storm, got everything battened down, and just watched it. We didn't pull all the boats out and go into total freak out mode. We kind of just wait and watched it. We were prepared. We had all the trailers ready, and we can pull them out real quick. We're fortunate to be able to do that. Where a lot of people, if they have to move their boat, take it up the river or the bay or something, they have to go ahead and do it. They can't wait till the day before the storm is supposed to be here. So that's one advantage we really have with the center console boats. I just kind of try to think of some other things to do to get away from fishing, like you said. But boat maintenance, it's a real good time to do that. I try to, I was kind of caught up on that. I try to factor that into my weekly schedule anyway. So kind of caught up on boat maintenance. So that's getting a little bit of time to work on the house, and got a few other little projects going. So
things that got to get done. Might as well do it while it's crappy.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. It's a good. It's a good time. I wish I was fishing, but I definitely need the downtime to catch up on things, because when when the weather is good, when you have a real good stretch of weather like we had for the last little while, I'll fish every day and I don't do anything else.
Lucky to fall in bed at night and wake up.
Yeah. My day will start at 2 or 3 in the morning. Most days of the week. Sometimes I'll get a 4 o'clock morning in, but I'm usually up anyway because I get in that routine of waking up. Some nights, if I'm fishing offshore, it'll be late at night before I get back home too. So, I don't mind a little downtime.
Yeah, I think that's a general consensus between most captains as well. Well, yeah. We talked to the onshore guys and we talked to the inshore guys. So I'm curious to hear your take and how you approach, offshore fishing after a storm or two like we've had. We didn't have a direct impact, but I think I still saw the buoys, and it was 20 or 30 foot out there, I believe, in a couple of different spots.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a 30-foot waves and all. And I really think it's good. I love to fish after the storms. What I really like about it is the bite's usually really good. It seems like it redistributes a bunch of fish, kind of pushes them around with all the current and waves and everything. And it just kind of resets everything is the way I look at it.
Yep.
It just kind of, it washes everything out and resets it. And I kind of like going out there. If the storm gets by and the weather, drops real quick and gets flat and you can get out there, it's like you can get out there before there's even like a Hilton shot or anything. And you just have to run and try to find where everything's at now, what it looks like since the storms come through. And I kind of had to use my eyes and just look at the water and just kind of run until I see something I like. But it's usually good after these storms.
Mm-hmm. Especially offshore. I feel like we have that advantage offshore. Inshore, I think inshore can be, and I know you do a lot of inshore fishing as well, but I think after a storm, inshore can be a lot more unpredictable as far as where the fish are pushed to. But I think you're right. A lot of the offshore guys, well, I know you're right. The offshore guys like a good shake up out there. Just kind of, like you say, brings in fresh water, fresh bait, fresh fish from, way down south, Mexico and all that stuff.
Yeah, the offshore stuff, the inshore, the inshore is good for me. It's good for me sometimes too. After the storm, a lot of people wouldn't agree. If we get a lot of weather to the north and a lot of rain in our river systems where it blows out in the bay and makes the bay all muddy, and pushes that salinity south, that's when I really like it anyway, because I like to fish at the mouth of the bay when I'm inshore fishing, and it just gets better. The more fresh water you have flow into the bay, the better it gets down there to me. So I kind of like that too, and I like all the debris that's floating around in the bay after a storm.
True.
After a good storm. So if we this time of year, if we get a storm and we get a big storm surge, I love it after that because there's so much debris in the bay. I can catch so many triple tail. But the offshore, I definitely love it after it's in the bite's usually good. I would say most times after a storm, we do pretty good. Especially, I really like the tuna bite after the storm. I don't know why specifically, but it's always been pretty good to us.
Yeah, it might just kind of reinvigorate them, because maybe you think it lowers the water temperature any? I know it's super hot out there now, but maybe with all the rain and just kind of fresh water, kind of just
definitely. And the storm is bringing water with it.
A ton of water. That's what we were talking about earlier with the inshore guys, all the displacement. It moves so much water around from here to there and all that.
And I mean, a lot of times, you know, depending on where you're located on the storm, what side of it and where you're at, I mean, if you get a bunch of that good storm surge, I mean, that'll kind of overpower how much rain you get. That storm surge will push in so much good, salty, clean water that it'll just wash out the fresh water with a couple of tides.
Yeah.
But, you know, I really like the way of the fishing after the storm. But, you know, I'm sure you get a bunch of different opinions on it. But I think it's like a good reset for everything.
Yep, that makes great sense. And I'm sure you got to be a little more careful running offshore 50 knots too. A lot, like you say, a lot of debris and stuff floating from – I don't think this one will be that bad. But, gosh, I remember after Katrina, man, you couldn't go anywhere. There was docks and houses and crap floating everywhere. That's
right. I mean, yeah, this one probably won't be too bad, especially for the inshore people. But, you know, offshore eventually it'll all come out there, and it'll you know, somewhere out there it'll line up or something. Yeah, a good debris rip. But, you know, I've got a lot of friends and customers who live in Beaumont, you know, in that area, and it's not looking real good for them. A lot of them just got through, you know, getting everything back to what you could call normal from, you know, I think it was Harvey or whatever, you know, flooded all their houses. Those same areas. Yeah, those same areas about to get it again. You know, most of them, you know, they understand that. They're like us. I mean, it's the same deal. It's just part of life, you know, where we live at, but it's still, you know, it's a lot of work.
Still sucks.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I hope you guys get out there quick, and I hope you guys get back to it and keep whacking them pretty quick. But if people want to get a trip with you, I know you do, like you say, you do trips offshore and inshore. You do a bunch of different stuff. So if people want to look you up and get a trip with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, it's 251-377-7135 or fedupcharters@gmail.com.
Awesome, buddy. We appreciate you being on as always, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right,
yep, sounds good.
All right, we appreciate that pre and post storm from Captain Dustin Bedgood over at Fed Up Charters. You know, we can't let you get out of here without What Did You Learn? This week is brought to us by Advanced Transmission. Towing a boat is an important part of having a great day on the water for many anglers. Are you sure your transmission is up to the task? Get your transmission checked out and serviced before you tow your boat this season at Advanced Transmission in Spanish Fort, Alabama. They install external transmission coolers for those who engage in regular towing to keep the most expensive and complicated part of your vehicle running smoothly. Advanced Transmission has well over 300 certified customer reviews with a 97.8% satisfaction rating, so you know they'll take care of you. Give them a call at 251-626-6061 or check them out online at www.advancedtransmission.com. Be sure to tell them you heard this ad on the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report for a 10% discount. I tell you what I learned is that storm, although they are terrible things, it can also be a reset. That's what pretty much most of our guys said. It's kind of going to be a reset of whatever you're fishing. Offshore, Captain Dustin said it, kind of going to move things around, kind of reinvigorate the water, the bait, probably the topical water temperatures. Same thing onshore and inshore. It's kind of going to be a reset. You're going to have to figure things out a little bit differently. But hopefully this week you guys listened in and you have a good idea of what to do post-storm. All you guys fishing the Saltwater Fanatics tournament, good luck. Make sure you check them out on Fishing Chaos. And that's going to wrap it up. You guys please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com and we'll send you the new show each week when it's published. You guys keep whacking them. We'll talk to you next week. Be safe. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Did you know you could save up to 40% on your homeowner's insurance with a fortified roof? Learn more at fortifiedroofingpros.com or call them at 251-973-9999. Also brought to you by Hilton's Real-Time Navigator, bringing you the highest quality online satellite fishing chart since 2004. Your source for sea temps, altimetry, currents, and watercolor at hiltonsoffshore.com.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo, Depaola, the Coastal Connection with EXP Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo Depaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
Also brought to you by MDH Foundation Repair. If your home is experiencing foundation problems, MDH Foundation Repair has the best solutions to fix it right and fix it now and protect your most important asset, your home. Check them out at mdhfoundationrepair.com.
And also KillerDock. Are you suffering from dock dysfunction? Check out a full line of dock enhancement at KillerDock.com. That's KillerDock.com.
Also brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. Check them out at ccaalabama.org.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com. That's JBAYA@nationalland.com.